welcome back to our channel. Tonight, we dive into 3 true and chilling stories about experiencing horror while being home alone during a rainstorm. Our first story is about mysterious sounds coming from the attic of an old house. Brace yourself, because this story will make your skin crawl. That night, heavy rain was pouring over the city. Lightning flashed and thunder roared, creating an even more eerie atmosphere. Sarah, 28-year-old woman, had just moved into an old house she had recently purchased. The house was located on the outskirts of the city, far from the hustle and bustle. Sarah was sitting in the living room, reading a book with a cup of hot tea. The heavy rain outside made the house feel colder and quieter. Suddenly, she heard a noise coming from the attic. At first, Sarah thought it was just the wind or an animal that had gotten in. However, the sound became clearer, like footsteps slowly moving around. With a mix of curiosity and fear, Sarah decided to check it out. She grabbed a flashlight and started climbing the stairs to the attic. Her steps were slow and cautious, the sound of the rain on the roof amplifying the silence of the night. When she reached the attic door, she felt a strange chill, as if something was wrong. As she opened the attic door, Sarah shone the flashlight around the room. Nothing seemed out of place, just old items and thick dust. But when she turned to leave, she saw a shadowy figure in the corner of the room. It looked like a woman with long, disheveled hair. Sarah felt her heart race. She couldn't move, as if her feet were glued to the spot. The figure began to move towards her with slow, deliberate steps. The rumble of the rain and thunder outside grew louder, but the sound of the footsteps was crystal clear to Sarah. With all the courage she had left, Sarah screamed and slammed the attic door shut. She ran down the stairs, almost tripping. Back in the living room, she was panting heavily. She locked all the doors and windows, making sure there were no gaps. That entire night, Sarah sat on the sofa, anxiously waiting for the morning. The sound from the attic ceased. The feeling of fear lingered. When the sun finally rose, Sarah decided to investigate the history of the house. She discovered that the house had once been occupied by a woman named Clara, who had mysteriously disappeared years ago. The neighbors said that Clara was often seen in the attic, as if she was searching for something lost. Since that night, Sarah never went up to the attic again. She decided to sell the house and move elsewhere. However, the terrifying experience always stayed in her mind, reminding her of the haunting sound from the attic on that rainy night. The mysterious sounds from the attic, haunting footsteps, and a shadowy figure drawing near. Sarah's story is a reminder that there are things that cannot be explained by logic. If you've ever experienced something similar, feel free to share your story in the comments. There are still 2 more stories that will make this night even more chilling. Stay tuned and brace yourself for the next tale. Our second story is about a man who saw a mysterious shadow at his window during a heavy rainstorm. What happened next will send shivers down your spine. Listen closely. Kevin was a single man living in a modern house on the outskirts of the city. One night, heavy rain was pouring down with strong winds. Kevin was watching a movie in his living room while enjoying a cup of hot coffee. Lightning occasionally flashed, adding to the eerie atmosphere. While he was engrossed in the movie, Kevin felt like someone was watching him. He turned to the large window in the living room and saw a shadowy figure standing outside. His heart pounded, and he tried to convince himself it was just the shadow of a tree or a trick of the light. However, the shadow didn't move. It looked like a human figure standing still, facing Kevin. With growing fear, Kevin decided to approach the window and get a clearer look. As he got closer, the shadow vanished instantly. Kevin felt relieved, but the uneasy feeling remained. He sat back down and tried to continue watching the movie. Few moments later, the shadow appeared again, this time at the kitchen window. Kevin ran to the kitchen, but once again, the shadow disappeared before he could see clearly. He decided to check the entire house, making sure all the doors and windows were securely locked. When he checked the bedroom, Kevin heard a knocking sound from the direction of the window. He felt a chill down his spine and cautiously approached the bedroom window. When he opened the curtain, Kevin saw the shadowy figure again, closer and clearer. It was a woman with a pale face and empty eyes staring back at him. Kevin stepped back in fear. The figure remained still. Panting, Kevin tried to call his friend for help. However, there was no cell signal. In the middle of the heavy rain, he felt trapped with the mysterious figure constantly watching him. All night, Kevin sat in the living room with the lights on and the doors locked. Kept feeling watched from outside, but didn't dare to approach the window again. When dawn finally broke, the shadow disappeared, and Kevin felt relieved, though exhausted and scared. The next day, Kevin researched the history of the house. He found out that years ago, a woman named Maya had lived in the house and was found dead in the backyard. Her case remained unsolved, and since then, several occupants reported seeing the shadow of a woman at the window during rainstorms. Kevin could never forget the experience. He decided to move and leave the house that constantly reminded him of the mysterious shadow at the window. However, the memory of that rainy night always haunted his mind. The shadow at the window that defies explanation. Woman's figure watching, and a fear that haunts a rainy night. Kevin's story teaches us that some things are more than mere coincidences. Don't forget to share your story if you've experienced something similar. There's one more story that will make you shiver. Stay tuned and get ready for the final chilling tale. Our final story is about a woman who received a visit from an uninvited guest during a heavy rainstorm. What really happened? Brace yourself, because this story will make the night even more terrifying. That night, rain poured down heavily. Thunder roared and lightning flashed, creating a chilling atmosphere. Lisa, a 30-year-old woman, had just returned home from work and was enjoying a cup of tea in her living room. Her usually cozy house suddenly felt cold and silent. While enjoying her alone time, Lisa heard a knock at the front door. She was startled, as she wasn't expecting any visitors on such a rainy night. Hesitantly, she walked to the door and looked through the peephole. There was no one outside. Lisa thought it might just be her imagination, or the sound of the rain hitting the door. However, a few minutes later, the knocking sound returned, louder and clearer. Lisa felt her skin crawl and cautiously opened the door a crack to check. There was no one outside, just the pouring rain and the howling wind. Lisa closed the door and locked it tightly, feeling a bit anxious but trying to stay calm. She returned to the living room and tried to continue her activities. However, the knocking sound came again, this time from the back window. Lisa walked to the window cautiously, trying to peek without opening the curtain. Outside, she saw a shadowy figure standing in the rain, staring into the house. Lisa felt terrified and stepped back, unsure of what to do. She grabbed her phone and tried to call her neighbor, but no one answered. She decided to lock all the doors and windows, ensuring no one could get in. When she returned to the living room, the knocking sound came again, this time from the kitchen window. Lisa ran to the kitchen and saw the shadowy figure again, closer and clearer. Face was pale, with empty and vengeful eyes. Lisa felt her breath quicken and didn't know what to do. She tried calling the police, but her phone signal was gone. Lisa felt trapped, with the uninvited guest constantly watching her from outside. All night, she sat in the living room with the lights on and the doors locked tightly. She kept feeling watched from outside, but didn't dare to approach the windows. At dawn, the shadow disappeared, and Lisa felt relieved despite being exhausted and scared. She decided to find out about the history of the house. She discovered that a few years prior, a woman named Emily had lived in the house and was found dead under mysterious circumstances in the backyard. The case was never solved, and since then, several occupants had reported seeing a figure watching them during heavy rainstorms. Determined to get to the bottom of this mystery, Lisa decided to investigate further. She found old newspaper articles and police reports about Emily's death. The reports mentioned that Emily was often seen standing by the window late at night, as if waiting for someone. One evening, after her usual nightly routine, Lisa decided to confront her fear. She placed a chair by the kitchen window and sat there, waiting for the rain to start. She kept all the lights off, hoping to get a clearer view of the mysterious figure. As the night grew darker, the rain began to pour down heavily. Lightning illuminated the sky, and thunder echoed through the house. Lisa sat in the dark, her heart pounding, waiting for the shadow to appear. Suddenly, the familiar knocking sound echoed through the house. Lisa's heart raced as she turned towards the kitchen window. There it was, the same shadowy figure standing in the rain, staring back at her. Summoning all her courage, Lisa stood up and walked to the window. She slowly opened the curtain, revealing the figure more clearly. It was indeed a woman with long, wet hair and a pale, lifeless face. Her eyes were empty, filled with a sorrowful longing. Lisa felt a sudden urge to communicate with the spirit. She whispered, "What do you want? Why are you here?" The figure remained silent, but a tear rolled down her cheek. Lisa realized that this was Emily, the previous occupant who had met a tragic end. Determined to help Emily find peace, Lisa decided to visit the local library and gather more information. She found out that Emily had been engaged to a man named Richard, who mysteriously disappeared shortly after her death. Rumors suggested that Richard had been involved in Emily's death, but there was no concrete evidence. Lisa returned home and began searching the house for any clues that might help solve the mystery. She discovered an old diary hidden in the attic. The diary belonged to Emily and contained detailed entries about her relationship with Richard. The last entry hinted at a dark secret that Emily had discovered about Richard, leading to a confrontation on the night of her death. With this newfound information, Lisa contacted a local historian who specialized in unsolved mysteries. Together, they pieced together the events leading up to Emily's death. It became clear that Richard had indeed been involved, and his disappearance was likely an attempt to escape justice. Armed with this evidence, Lisa presented her findings to the police. The case was reopened, and an investigation was launched to locate Richard and bring him to justice. Meanwhile, Lisa continued to experience the presence of Emily's spirit during rainstorms, but now it felt different. The spirit seemed calmer, as if relieved that the truth was finally coming to light. One stormy night, as Lisa sat by the window, she saw Emily's figure once again. This time, Emily's expression was one of gratitude. She placed her hand on the window, and Lisa mirrored the gesture from inside. A sense of peace washed over Lisa, and she knew that Emily's spirit was finally at rest. The police eventually located Richard, who confessed to his crimes. He was brought to justice, and Emily's tragic story was finally resolved. Lisa felt a sense of closure, knowing that she had helped bring peace to a restless spirit. From that night on, Lisa never saw the shadowy figure again. The house returned to its peaceful state, and Lisa felt a newfound sense of safety and comfort. However, she never forgot the nights when she was visited by the uninvited guest during the heavy rain. The uninvited guest who revealed a dark secret, a spirit seeking justice, and a confrontation that brought peace. Lisa's story reminds us that sometimes the past doesn't rest until the truth is uncovered. You've ever had a similar experience? Share your story in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true horror stories. Stay safe. Remember, you're never truly alone.